Hi, my name is Robert Mitchell, and I am a professor at the Ulsan National Institute of Science and Technology in Ulsan, South Korea. I originally am from the States. I grew up in Chicago and attended the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, where I double majored in both microbiology and chemistry. I came to Korea originally back in 1998 as a graduate student in the Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology under Professor Manbok-gu, where I studied environmental engineering with a focus on environmental toxicology and biosensing. After two postdocs, one at Harvard Medical University in Boston, and then at KIST, the Korea Institute of Science and Technology here in South Korea, where I studied human pathogens and bioengineering and bioproduction. I took a position at UNIST, where I have been now for the last 12 years. My research field is a combination of the different things that I love from my research background, including bacteria, bioproduction, and pathogens. Our primary research in my lab is related with bacterial predators. These are bacteria that attack and consume other microbes. And we're interested in their biological processes and how they do this, including their ability to degrade the pathogen's DNA and their proteins, and eventually, hopefully, to apply them to remove and control pathogenic populations, especially in human health-related issues. These living antibiotics, we're currently studying their activities against multi-drug resistant pathogens, including carbapenem and colistin resistant bacteria, which are key priority microorganisms and pathogens that humans are facing at the moment. As I mentioned earlier, my first experience coming to Korea was in the Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology, and this was my first experience as an international lab. However, under a program provided by the National Research Foundation of Korea called the BK21 program, I was able to attend and do research in the lab in the UK at the University of Nottingham for 4 months. And I truly appreciated the opportunity. The research was great. The reason why I originally came to Korea was when I was at the UIUC. The church that I attended was helping Korean internationals who were coming to the US to study. And I worked with them and became good friends with many Koreans. And they shared their culture with me, their language, their food, and I grew to love it. And so when I heard about the opportunity to come and study at GIST, at Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology here in Korea, I thought this would be a great opportunity. To be honest, since I didn't travel overseas before this point, it was a little bit scary, but I have come to see Korea as my home. My wife is Korean, which helps settle down here in Korea, but I also have 3 sons who are Korean as well. In terms of difficulties here in Korea, success and difficulties, I'd say that there's several. It's nice here in Korea, absolutely beautiful. I love it. As I said, it's my home. However, there are difficulties, as I'm sure there are any place that you go. At UNIST, the facilities and opportunities are tremendous, and they've helped me establish myself. And I hear the same is true at many different universities throughout Korea. More so, the students that come to my lab and apply, I've had many intelligent students come, and it's been great to work with them, both Korean and international, but primarily Korean. However, it has not been a bed of daisies. There are problems. As an international here in Korea, it's difficult to get funding, and this is an issue I'm currently working with the Research Foundation of Korea to remedy, to make it easier for other internationals. And so my advice to internationals who are kind of thinking about coming to Korea to do research as a colleague, I would suggest 2 things. 1, go to the conferences, go to the meetings, make a social impact and get to know other people. The social interactions are paramount here. And if you do not get your name out and interact with your colleagues, it's going to be more difficult. And the second one is similar. Work with your colleagues within your universities. They're a great help, and it will help you prepare your grants and know what to submit and what to do in the different administrative duties that you may have. And so related with this, related with getting grants, my suggestion is to engage your Korean students. It's always best to have students in your lab who can support you and help you in preparation of the application process, which is best done in Korean. I found that if my students help me and translate the grants into Korean, I've been more successful. And this is one of the reasons that I limit my international membership in my lab to about 30%, because I don't want to burden my Korean students more. As I mentioned, funding is a limitation. I would love to have more students. However, as I said, I'm working with Younger Gen, and every lab is struggling to get funding, I'm sure. So engage your students, have them help you, and look for different funding opportunities. One of these is the National Science and Information Technology Service, NTIS website, where the different grants are compiled and they list all of them that are currently available. I do this about once every 2 weeks with one of my students, and so we go there and we look at all the different grants that have been announced in the last couple of weeks, and we try to decide which ones best fit my lab. So in total, I apply for many grants a year, and I'm hopeful that I'll get a couple more this year as well. Finally, I would ask if you're thinking about coming here, to engage your colleagues in your departments to help you with the applications. Together with my students and the colleagues, I discuss the ideas and develop them, but I end up putting most of the writing, as I mentioned, onto the shoulders of my students. This is something I honestly dislike as a professor, one of the things that I struggle with here in Korea. However, I would say that, again, if you're thinking about coming here, having someone help you prepare your grants in Korean would be a great thing to do. Many people are successful writing it in English, but to increase your odds, I would say try to get it in Korean. So within Korea, there has been a push over the last decade or so to increase the international population, international research numbers here. The government has successfully been pushing this, and I think that they have to consider that there's two things that are critical for every international coming to Korea, regardless of their research: family and research, family and funding. NRF is not responsible for the family, but they are responsible for the funding. And so I would like to see them put forth a little bit more efforts to help us as internationals here in Korea to understand the difference in the award rates between the internationals and our Korean colleagues. What is the issue? What are the problems that we're having? Are we preparing our grants in the wrong way, or is there something else? And to have a transparent discussion about this. Related with this, it would also be nice to see opportunities where collaboration between internationals and Koreans are encouraged. Such a system would be beneficial to both parties, and one such system might be to increase the evaluation points for our Korean colleagues if they include us and invite us to participate with them. This would allow us as internationals to demonstrate our capability here in this great country. Again, I would love to survive here, and this is my home. But at the same time, it would allow us to interact with and collaborate with our Korean colleagues and benefit them through the research collaborations that we do. And so I would say to any international who might be interested in coming to Korea, come give it a chance. Understand that there are some difficulties, but it's a beautiful country. It's a wonderful place. And I would say come and help us make it a better place. They want me to wave.